My name is Victoria Winters. My journey is beginning. A journey that I hope will open the doors of life to me and link my past with my future. A journey that will bring me to a strange and dark place, to the edge of the sea, high atop Widow's Hill, a house called Collinwood. A world I've never known, with people I've never met. People who tonight are still only shadows in my mind, but who will soon fill the days and nights of my tomorrows.
The name's Maggie Evans, and right now I'm the last link in a long string of gossip. Sandwich rare enough for you?
Oh, it's fine. But I still don't understand
why. It's like this. A chauffeur tells a desk clerk, who tells a housekeeper, who tells me that you're going to work up in Collinwood. That makes you a jerk.
But why?
Listen, honey. The Collins family is the biggest thing in this town. They own the biggest cannery, the biggest fishing fleet, and the biggest, darkest, gloomiest old house. And they're kooks. Every one of them.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
My very first memory of Dark Shadows is standing there facing Alexandra Molka, she as scared as I was, and having to play a scene on that very first day. I remember that like it happened yesterday.
You repeat tonight's episode, and I'll have to ask you to pack your things and leave.
Elizabeth, all I wanted to do was talk to the girl.
Then knock on her door. I want you to remember that Victoria Winters is not only an employee, she is a guest in my house, and I want her treated with as much respect
as much respect as you'd give Burke Devlin?
I've gallivanted around with Joan Bennett, whom I adored, and we had the opening scene in the show where I uttered the famous line, "A watch pot never boils to coin a face," and little Nancy Barrett came in, and the three of us launched the story that became Dark Shadows. And we had a wonderful time. We really and truly did.
Dark Shadows will return in just a moment.
I guess what I really remember about Dark Shadows is that I couldn't get a job because I was pregnant. And I had already worked in 100 guest starring roles in television by the time I did this. So I was thinking of going into retirement, and I received this script in the mail from my agent. And I read it, and I thought, gee, I can be pregnant and play a phoenix. So I went in, and I met Dan Curtis, and the first thing that I said was, I am so in love with the soliloquy that she reads to David about what a phoenix is and what happens.
And slowly it starts to smolder. And the phoenix fans the spark with its wings until the entire nest is ablaze. And the beautiful feathers, they all catch on fire. The whole bird is consumed in flame and burned to ashes. And from these ashes, the phoenix is reborn. Reborn to live on and spend the next 100 years in paradise.
Dan Curtis loved the supernatural, and we needed something to spice the show up. So in reading the story plan, I noticed that Laura was coming from Phoenix, Arizona to claim her child. And we were having lunch one day, and I said, what if Laura were a phoenix? And they said, what's a phoenix? A phoenix, I said, is somebody who burns up every 100 years and is reborn and comes back and lives another cycle. And her objective is to get her child and take it into the fire. It was so crazy, they said, well, what do we got to lose? We're going off the air anyway. So we tried it. And it worked, of course. I would say, frankly, that it was the phoenix that made it possible for Barnabas to even get on the air, because we were renewed with the phoenix. we'd gotten such a higher rating.
David Hennessy, who played Louis' son, I had several shows with him, or more than that probably. It was a lot of scenes. And he was a marvelous actor, really wonderful. He could turn on the emotion, and he could turn on the tears, and he really was there with you. He really looked you in the eye, and he really talked to you. And as I remember, he was really good.
Isn't there any more dessert left?
I'm afraid not.
Well, you haven't eaten very... No, I was about to say the same thing.
Not haven't touched your food.
Well, I just wasn't very hungry.
Remind me to give Mrs. Johnson an up-to-date cookbook.
Well, Dark Shadows, in those days, this shooting the show straight through was really tough. I mean, you really had to be prepared, and you had to really, and it was hard to be prepared every day, and it was much more difficult. Although there was a great kind of rewarding thing about it. You'd have this sort of feeling of finishing something and going through it and getting it done. And there were a lot of funny things where, the cameras would be moving and you're doing the scene and they're, and that kind of stuff, but that happened a lot in live television too, in the nighttime stuff there. But now everything's so technical, they can stop and start.
What do you mean you don't know where he is? You work for him, don't you? Don't give me excuses. Find it and tell him to contact Burke Devlin, and don't waste any time about it.
Good news, this program, Dark Shadows, is now being presented in color.
What is this, a convention?
How far did they make you go for accuracy in the costuming? 'Cause, I mean, the outsides looked fairly accurate, but did you go the whole route? Did you have the corsets and the whole bit underneath, too? No?
Yeah, I do remember when Virginia Vestoff and I had period piece costumes on, that we had real waist cinchers and stuff like that, just so the costumes were really exquisite. And some of that stuff was museum quality, and you had to be poured into it or laced into it or something like that. Yeah, that I do remember.
Roxanne, can you tell us what you mean?
No, I was waiting for him.
What are you waiting for, darling? Who?
Oh.
Come on, let's get her upstairs. She's hysterical.
I got to tell you, thank God for Dark Shadows, because it gave me a chance to play these wonderful, crazed roles, which you don't get cast in ordinarily. And not that I've done many different kinds of things, but Dark Shadows was wonderful for me because the range was terrific, and Dan liked me as an actor and was willing to, anything. I could do anything as far as he was concerned. So it was just great fun, and it was theatrical. It was a little bit more like stage than television acting. You were allowed to get out there and really do something a little crazier and a little less realistic, which was quite all right for the thing that we were doing.
What do you think I should name my babies? I can't decide what to name them. I can't decide what is pretty anymore. Boys are to be named after their fathers. I remember that.
Jenny, your babies are awake now, aren't they?
Oh, I didn't hear them. Oh, they are. Oh.
The one interesting thing about Dark Shadows is that most of the actors on the show were really stage actors. You watch a lot of soaps, and they talk very soft, and everything's very natural, and it's kind of like that. But on Dark Shadows, one of the things they looked for was somebody who could gesture big and have a good voice and everything. I mean, Jonathan was a Shakespearean actor.
Yes.
You had, so it was a good show from that point of view. It was very dramatic.
Judith,
Quentin, Cousin Barnabas, I'm very proud and happy to announce that Kitty and I are going to be married.
Well, well, you are full of surprises, Edward.
Congratulations, Edward. And Kitty.
Thank you.
When is the happy day?
We haven't had time to think about it yet. We only decided tonight. I must confess that Edward surprised me as much as he did you.
Cousin Barnabas, you're curiously silent.
Oh, I'm sorry. May I offer my congratulations to you, Cousin Edward? Lady Hampshire, I know you will both be very happy.
Thank you, Barnabas.
Dark Shadows. I love doing the show, but my gosh, it's a long time ago. I can remember that I never looked at the teleprompter. I remember I cut up a lot. A lot of people thought that I was Dan's kind of pet. In fact, I think Dan said that to me at one point. That's because he used to let me get away with a lot. I used to ad-lib and, you know, and kid around and have fun with it.
You know, David, I was thinking about, well, I was thinking about making you the ring bearer at the wedding. But you probably wouldn't want to do that.
Sure I would.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, then it's settled. Mr. Ring Bearer.
Honest?
Honest.
Dark Shadows will return in just a moment.
I think the most serious moment for me, I will never forget this, was when I had this cane in Elizabeth Ice's neck. And we had two canes. We had one that had a real knife that popped out, and the one that we usually worked with, which did not have a knife that popped out. We're taping. I've got the cane to her neck. I'm playing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm playing Mr. Hyde, and she's Buffy, I think her name was. And the cane is to her neck, and suddenly I realized it's the one with the knife, and it's right there. And she realized it too, and our eyes locked, and beads of sweat were filming up on her brow and mine too, and my heart's pounding. And
you had better not mention who gave the check. That's part of my promise to Dr. Longworth. Look, as generous as he is, I don't think he wants his name mixed up in the events of tonight. You understand?
Yes, I understand.
Oh, good. Good. I like people who understand. And as for those who don't understand, well, the less said about them, the better. Yes, their fate is best forgotten.
There seemed to be a great deal of sympathy for the character, which is something that I appreciated, because that's really what I was doing, was approaching it from a, not a monster perspective, but from a human perspective, and it created that sympathy. Poor Adam didn't know what the hell's going on, and just trying to get along, and all these people are doing these nasty things to him. And,
Let me go! Leave me alone! Stop it! Let me go!
What do you want? What?
Kill Barnabas.
I think that the set that we wanted to concentrate mostly on was the drawing room and foyer. I mean, that was the set that remained standing throughout the entire series. So that was the one that I gave the most attention to. Now, we did use the exterior, which was the exterior of Collinwood, which was up in Newport, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And it was an actual building. The exterior, which shows on, probably starts in the opening credits.
Right, Seaview Terrace.
When you hear, "My name is Victoria Winters." Right. But what we did on that is we simply matched the front door. The interior did not match the interior of that house. We created that from scratch.
Oh, my darling. I'm all right.
I love you.
I know. Quick, we can't stay here.
Come on. We've got to make a plan to get out of here. Desmond will be all right in a day or two. We've got to wait on him.
Quentin, we can't stay in this room.
Yes, we can. It's safe.
No, this room's not safe. This is the room that you...
What's wrong? What's happening?
We're trapped. We're trapped in another time.
It appeals to the side of a person who's willing to just, drop everything they know as it really exists and enjoy something else that can be quite entertaining and can really get you under its spell. My favorite one was when we went back in time. And Laura Parker and I were sisters, I think, in that one. And I had a line that afterwards I took out of the yellow teleprompter. And it was just a simple line, but it was, "Everything Ezra told you is true." And I've never forgotten it, and I believe it now.
Daphne, do you remember that day that you met Ezra Robinson in Collinsport? Yes. And he told you that long story about
a locked room in the lottery?
Yes, and a lottery that they held every generation.
Yes, what about it?
Everything that he told you is true.
Catherine, how did you find that out?
Morgan told me last night.
I still don't think that's all of it. I don't think that's all that has you so upset.
I was almost murdered last night in my bed.
Murdered?
My goodness, there's so many of you. Maybe you didn't realize that this show's been off the air for a long time. We thought we should all come out today like this. Because that's how we all feel. The best part is when the 7- and 8-year-olds come up and they say, "Who are these people, Mommy?" But we like to come anyway, and thank you all so much for coming. This is incredible. I'm just overwhelmed. Thank you so much. Dennis?
Hello. What? Oh, hello. I'm sure you're the grandchildren of the original fans, are you not? Because I am the grandpa, but these are my own teeth. How do you like that? Without John Carlin to go straight for me, I don't know that as much as I can do. I've got a wonderful Pollock joke for him that's going to kill him when he gets here, if he gets here. I can't believe that you're this many of you. My God, what do? Multiply? Is that what it is? You're being fruitful. That's what it is. Well, you're having more fun than I'm having, I'll tell you. It's nice to be here again. God love you all. I love every one of you. You've been so nice to us.
Okay. Denise!
Hi. Thank you. It's terrific to be here. And I also cannot believe how many of you there are. This is a fun time for me. It's terrific to see everybody again and to see you all come out and be so gracious and kind to us. And thank you very, very much.
Michael Stroka.
Dennis took all my dialogue.
Take it back.
Can I have my sheet back, though? I don't have any dialogue except to say thank you. It's really nice of you all to be here. And myself, and I'm sure everyone else up on this dais, really enjoys being here. Thank you. Thank you for your support.
This is Catherine Lee Scott.
Woo!
I have a feeling that there are probably going to be 5 times as many of you next year in New York, because I just heard an amazing piece of news that President Clinton has asked that Sci-Fi Channel be piped into the White House. Which I think is just amazing. I have a feeling that President Clinton watching the exploits of Barnabas and crew is probably the safest thing that can happen to this country.
Conrad Bain.
Thank you. I hope I'm at the right meeting. I saw everybody gathering and I came in. My name's Conrad Bain. I'm an alcoholic. This is not the meeting? Oh boy, I'll never get over it. Well, I just think you're a bunch of wonderful, loyal fans. I don't know what you see in this series. I had a very small part to play, as I'm sure you know. Could have been a big success. I tried to talk Dan Curtis when I was in the first episode. I had a couple of black kids I wanted to bring in. And he wouldn't do it, and the rest is history. Anyway, thanks for coming. It's a pleasure to be with you. All the best.
All right. Miss Donna Wandry.
Hello again. It's good to see you all again. Signed autographs till midnight last night. You going to do that again this evening?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. We'll order sandwiches. Marie and I are a duo. We only appear together. And Miss Marie Wallace.
Yes.
Thanks. I always get such a kick out of coming to these conventions. It's such fun to see the fans, some fans who used to wait outside the stage door. One particular one, Richie, who I'm sure is here tonight. I've seen him all through this last 2 days that I've been here. And then to see fans that I've seen over the 10 years, I guess, that I've been coming to the conventions. And then each year, like this one, to see so many new people and little kids. I mean, a 10-year-old came up to me and said to me, "Aren't you Marie Wallace?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, we just got Sci-Fi Channel in our area, and we got really hooked on it." I said, "Isn't that great?" You know, because in the beginning, when you think about these conventions, you think, oh, people are going to get older and older and older because they're from way back then. But you don't. You just keep getting younger and younger, just like us.
Yes.
So it's great to see you.
Miss Diana Millet.
I bet we have more fun than you do. My favorite fan as of today was a 6-year-old little boy that came to my table in the dealer's room and said, "You're my grandfather's favorite actress." That's all I had to say.
My memories of Dark Shadows are very dark. I don't know what I had for breakfast this morning. No, I have very fond memories. The thing that I was mentioning earlier, when Dennis and I were talking off stage, I didn't have a contract on the show. I was cast as the hotel clerk, and I came in the first episode, and then I came in intermittently. I can't even tell you now how many times I appeared there, but there came a time when they would call me, and I would be unavailable. I'd be off doing a play in Boston or some other thing, and I don't know, you know, they wrote it differently. And then a year and a half went by, and I didn't hear from them, so I assumed that I was out of the picture. Then I got a call from a young lady in the office, and she said, "I'm Dan Curtis' office." I said, "Yes." She said, "Mr. Bain, were you ever eaten by the werewolf?" I said,
No, not so far as I know. And she said, well, we'll have to have you back then.
Do you still feel the pain?
No. No, it stopped.
Then the hand did help.
No, it did not. The pain always stops just before.
Just before the transformation.
One for David.
Yes, sir.
I'm from West Virginia.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
Whereabouts?
Charleston.
Well, you know something? My brother lives in Charleston, and I'm going down to Charleston on, let's see, July about 19th. St. Albans? I heard your daddy. Is that your daddy back? My brother is the publisher of the Charleston Gazette. He's got a better job than I do. West by God, Virginia. Now I want to know something. How old are you?
7.
You're 7? And have you seen Dark Shadows?
Yeah.
Now it comes on in Charleston?
Mm-hmm.
It does. Wonder why my brother doesn't watch it.
Do you like playing the werewolf?
Did I like playing the werewolf? I had a great time playing the werewolf. And I tell you, I had such a good time. And you know what the best part of it is? No. Is it somebody from St. Albans, West Virginia, who's 7 years old, steps up to the microphone and says, "Hello, I have a question for David." And I'm saying, my goodness gracious. I thank you for being here. I thank all of you for being here, because that's what it's meant to all of us up here. And I think we're all pretty lucky, both on this side and on that side, to have experienced a show that meant so much to all of us. And it just goes to prove that there's some young ones coming right along that get a little bit of joy out of it too. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Barnabas Collins.
I don't know you. What do you want of me?
No more than is due.
I don't owe you anything!
Sit down, Mr. Scott.
Listen, all of you, I'm the oldest guy here, and no one can lick me, because when I see you next year, if I do, I'll still be the oldest guy here. I want to thank you for being alive. You're wonderful. God bless you. And I'm grateful to all of you.
I don't think that there would be any of this excitement about the 30th anniversary or even the 25th anniversary if it weren't for all of the actors, all of the Dark Shadows actors enjoying one another so much that they go to those annual festivals and they've stayed in touch, and I think the fans of Dark Shadows pick up on that, and they know that when they go to one of the festivals they're going to see us. And of course we've raised a lot of money for charity by signing autographs and so on, which is another fun thing. But I think the real success of Dark Shadows 30 years later is the fact that they know that we're all supportive of it and that we enjoy it.
When I was young, I used to watch Dark Shadows, and I kind of lived and breathed the show. And it was just something that was very special and very different.
They're very
down-to-earth people who are really pleasant to be with and very easygoing with their time and their autographs and their photographs, and they never seem to turn you away when you ask them for something.
My favorite character was Barnabas. I like to have that he started off being this horrible, awful person, and he turned out to be a very sympathetic person as time went on.
My favorite storyline is 1897. Magda and Quentin and Count Petofi and Angelique, my favorite character of all time. And Barnabas, of course. He's always been my favorite.
Well, this is my first convention, but I've watched Dark Shadows since I've been a little girl, and this is like a dream come true. I just got to take a picture with Angelique and Maggie Evans, and I got to touch them, and I actually got to see and get kisses from stars. It's like my little girl is coming out, and I'm playing in an adult situation, and it's just been a fun weekend. Everybody's been well behaved, and the stars have been so gracious and kind to us, and I can't believe that they're here and that they're all real, everybody, and everybody's just smiling and having a wonderful time.
I was actually born the same year that the show came on, so I wasn't really involved in watching the TV show at the time, but what I collect is old paperback books that are based on TV shows, and so the first time that I came into contact with Dark Shadows was through those books. There was a set of about 32 books written about the show, so that was the first thing I saw. Then later I saw it when it was on video, obviously. So it was a really popular show with kids, and so there were a lot of games and toys and books and puzzles.
When I first came on to Dark Shadows, I was 11 years old. Well, prior to that, there was a call for an interview, which I went on with many other girls. And I was not familiar with the show. I didn't know anything about it, actually. I was a very busy child actress, so I was never at home to watch it. So I was unfamiliar with it, and I got the job, and I thought it was just terrific because I could work with another kid. I could work with David. And we had a terrific amount of fun, racing up and down the hallways, and we had our own little restaurant on the set as a side business with a little hot plate, and we used to have a lot of fun with that. And I was on the show until I was 13, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Everyone was very, very nice. It was like a family.
She's upstairs in her room.
Who's upstairs in her room?
Quentin says her name is Alexis.
Now, who do you know? How do you know who I came to see?
Well, you always used to come to see her.
Alexis? I've never even met her.
Oh, yes, you have. Go upstairs. You'll see. I wonder if they'll make you call her Alexis, too.
Crazy, weird, bizarre concept for an afternoon soap
Yes,
opera.
Dan Curtis really pulled it off. It was because of my playing Josette, and I'd already been playing Maggie Evans, that all of us got to play different characters. I think Laura played about 6 roles, I played 4, Jonathan played a few, and we had
Could you
actors
keep it straight?
playing 12.
Was it possible to know each day, the way they shoot these things, what you were doing each day?
No, we lost track just like everyone else.
Laura, didn't you play your Angelique and then Angelique's evil twin?
Well, Angelique was pretty evil. She was the witch. And she was the one that...
Alexis?
Alexis had a twin, yeah. That was interesting. I got to do a scene where, with myself, I got to act 2 parts.
Who was better?
The evil one was always better.
Always better.
Ghoulish Patty Duke.
Now, I want to say this gently because it was a big hit. At times, this was the cheapest looking show on earth.
It was.
Thank you, okay. The effects, you know, you were working on a limited budget because all the money was going to Jonathan.
Hey, we had wonderful effects.
Let's take a look here. This is, I think, this is the bat scene. Now, I want you to watch the bat. There it is.
This is dreadful.
Look for the wire. See if you can see the wire. There's the wire.
Well, you know, I've got to stand up for the show. Every once in a while, we reach for the stars every day, and of course, when you reach that high, you fall flatter and harder. And but when it worked, there was nothing on television like it.
But
it didn't happen often enough.
I
That's the
disagree.
problem.
No, I disagree with you.
Oh,
I think that
then
part of
you
the
gotta fight
charm
me.
of the show was that very aspect.
I think so too.
I think all of us.
Oh, nuts.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You cannot laugh at a show that's not meant to be funny. If you do, I can't understand people who watch old movies that are terrible. There's something wrong with them.
I don't know.
Because if
No,
a
you're
show
making-
isn't designed to be funny, it's only funny for about 3 minutes, and then it's dull.
But you're making a value judgment about terrible. I think that part of the charm of the show was knowing that you people were acting in these roles, and we were doing two things at once. We were with you as actors, and we were with you as viewers.
Well, okay.
You know, one did have to suspend belief just to imagine that each of us were playing those different roles.
Oh, well, sure, but I mean, I don't think people were suspending the disbelief because there were so many of these intrusions of clumsiness. You know, I mean, I'm the worst
perspective of
critic of the
time
show. I mean,
makes
I
it go
love
back.
laughing at it, but I mean, at the time, it was a living hell for me because there were just so many mistakes all the time.
So you didn't laugh at them, and
Oh, not while I was doing them.
No.
Oh,
At the
heavens
time,
no.
we were
But
terrified.
I think that's what Steve means is that we played it sincerely and for real with
Yeah.
tremendous commitment to the story and to the characters. But when a microphone, a boom comes into the shot, or a prop man walks across the back of the set, or you can't get the door open when you're running away from the vampire, and when you pull on the door, the set shakes.
Maybe it was
It's-
to our credit that
Listen,
we got
it's
people
ve-
back.
It's very
You know,
funny.
I
We
think
called
that's-
each other
I think
by the
that's
wrong
true.
names.
Yes.
Every time we made a mistake, people should understand we did it as though it were live.
Yes.
So every mistake we made went on the air. They didn't stop and start over the way they do today.
And Dark Shadows should have just stopped 20-some years ago, but it didn't. I mean, this is the only soap opera that's ever sold on home video cassette, is still in rerun 25 years
right,
later.
and there'll be a
It's-
50th. And we'll be sitting here talking about it.
And we'll go back and look for that
I'll be back where I started by that time, I think.
Information on the Dark Shadows 25th anniversary celebration this weekend is on the AM Los Angeles hotline. Jonathan and Catherine and Lara, thank you all for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Dark Shadows will return in just a moment.
I must act before anyone sees me this way.
Well, if anyone did see you, they wouldn't recognize you.
Have I altered that much?
You bear very little resemblance to the person anyone knew. Only your voice is the same.
To think that all your noble experiments have come to this. You gave me hope, Doctor. Hope that I could live as a man among other men. I'll never forgive you for this.
My late wife, Grayson Hall, was much more versatile than she was generally accepted to be. Harold Kloorman, the great director and theater authority, said to her once, "I don't understand why no one sees your vulnerability and why they cast you in these overpowering roles where you were all strength." And I felt that way too, and so did Gordon Russell, who he and I were the most important writers that as it worked out in the show. And so we would write for Grayson the kind of thing that she didn't get to do, you know, where she was obviously so in love with him, with Barnabas, and he was refusing her every minute of this time, and had to trust her, and she had enough rage in her to try to kill him at some point in the game, and that's when he turned into the 108-year-old man or whatever it was. And then to get back in his good graces because he needed her. But she always regarded him with a great deal of love and honest affection. And it was I know we went to California on a tour for the first movie, I think it was, and her mother was living in California, and her mother said, "Nothing you have ever done has had the effect that Dark Shadows has. You know, and she had been nominated for an Academy Award for Night of the Iguana. She had done Disney films. She had worked a lot on Broadway and a lot off Broadway, so that she was well known in the profession, but she was never touched people in anything else she did as much as her work did in Dark Shadows.
That really was, I think, an extraordinarily good company. Everybody was a good actor. You know, and there certainly were no little parts. What was marvelous is that everybody, I mean, the difference between Katie Scott and Nancy Barrett, you know, I mean, both being, and Laura Parker, I mean, all being ingenues. You know, it was cast so brilliantly. I don't know, I thought everybody was really quite marvelous. It was a time of great joy. I mean, it was, as I say, when it was over, I was relieved, and, you know, I mean, 4 years is enough for a job. But on the other hand, it was a time of great joy, and it was fun.
You know, films of Hollywood's golden era featured many beautiful stars, but few as glamorous and talented as our next guest. Currently, she's going into her, I think it's her 5th year as one of the stars of the vampire soap opera, Dark Shadows. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Miss Joan Bennett. Oh, you're colorful. That's pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good for a hot day.
You're a pretty lady.
Thank you.
Really are.
She's sweet.
You've done a movie, another movie.
Yes, Dark Shadows.
A full-length feature?
Yes, indeed.
What was it like getting back?
Well, it was quite different because the whole technique, I've made a film about 10 years, and we did it very quickly. We did it all on location in the old Jay Gould house in Tarrytown because it's gothic and spooky, the way this TV series is. And they had a camera that I've never seen before. It was a shoulder camera. Have you seen them?
Yeah, well, they use those in television. They call them creepy peepees in television.
I don't know, they move all over. And I
Really?
said, what is
Little
that
tiny thing on the
home
shoulder?
movie camera doing here? Because I've never seen one before. I've never
Were
seen
they
one on
actually
our set.
using it for?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
How many pictures is that total for you now?
I think 73 or 4.
Good night. 73 or 4. Do they haunt you? I mean, you keep seeing yourself on television?
No, I never look.
Why? Why don't you look?
Well, I only look, sometimes I look at my favorites.
What are your favorites?
Well, my favorites are Little Women, Manhunt, Woman in the Window, and Scarlet Street.
Woman in the Window is wild.
Yeah, they show that quite a lot.
Yes, they do.
I don't, repeatedly look
Did you
at
have, I'm curious, did you have any reservations about doing a film again?
No, not at all. No.
I wonder how many
Well, we
people...
were working, it's like a repertory company, the whole company that worked on the...
Well, it was like
television.
doing your regular show.
Right.
Being with those people.
That's right.
Do they, on soap operas, we hear about, we used to do skits occasionally on soap operas where we'd hide lines under our neckties and, do they do that? Do you hide lines around the set?
Heavens, no. And I think they engaged this whole cast because they were nearsighted, because no one can see the teleprompter.
And you have to memorize it.
Come and see how the vampires do it. House of Dark Shadows, where death is a way of life.
Julia, do you believe in the existence of vampires?
You're not really serious. But he is, Julia.
I command you to come to me!
Barnabas Collins, vampire, takes a pride in a bizarre act of unnatural love. House of Dark Shadows. Rated GP.
No one thought about a sequel. And so when we started again, we just knew that we wanted to use Kate Jackson, and we wanted to use Grayson as an evil housekeeper. And it just all began and we had to use Lyndhurst, the castle in Tarrytown. because Dan had contracted for that, and we had made the first film there. So it was a whole new ballgame, mostly because of Barnabas, because of Jonathan's refusal to do it. And I do not remember what the plot was going to be of the second movie when it was presented to Jonathan.
Come back to Collinwood, that house of dark shadows, where life and death go on as usual. A bodiless spirit. A witch is hanged in the garden. She'll be back. The deranged, sadistic killer does his thing. Night of Dark Shadows. Death kept their love alive.
Oh, you have the strangest eyes I've ever seen. It's like they could see through me.
This next young man, I haven't met him yet, but I certainly know who he is. I guess most people do. The show called Dark Shadows is a phenomenon in television. It's on in the daytime on ABC. It's probably one of the highest rated shows of all time in daytime. It's, he plays a 175-year-old vampire. It is caught on so incredibly that there are the Frid girls. I know the whole front of our theater is lined with girls who couldn't get in tonight, and they're out there screaming and yelling, and they'll probably beat us up as we leave for not getting them seats. But this show has really caught on. I know in my house, my son runs home to school. We can't pull him away from the set. It's full of vampires and coffins, and it's an incredible hit. And this, of course, is the star of it. He plays Barnabas Collins. Here's Jonathan Frid.
Graciano, Arthur Beecher. Sit here, Jonathan.
We'll talk across, Barnabas. Thank goodness you kissed her hand.
Well, I may lose interest in what you're saying.
Yeah.
This lovely neck right here.
I know. It's hard to describe the success of that show, isn't it, Jonathan?
Yes, I must say it is.
What is the audience's fascination with the morbid?
Well, I think they're very interested in just a playing bite. I think that has something to do with it. It must have. I don't know that it's the coffin so much, but I think it's... I don't want to get into Freudian psychology, but I think that the bite has a great deal to do with it. I also think that this guy Barnabas is a guy with a hang-up.
Definitely. Something or other.
It's, and maybe people sympathize with the fact that he's got something to fight. I've really never been able to figure it out, but I'm enjoying it immensely, but I've never been able to figure it out.
Do you have any personal fears about playing the part of Barnabas? Because I remember Arthur knew Bela Lugosi well. I knew him in his last few years, and the part had gotten to him by the end of his life.
That's what I understand. So far, it hasn't grabbed me quite like that. I have no qualms about getting into the coffin. Now, we have had actresses on the show who have, one day, our taping was held up an hour or two because one of the actresses who had to get into a coffin couldn't do it. And I couldn't understand. I mean, an actor being in that kind of uncontrollable condition seemed rather odd to me, but it's maybe this is something that a female can't do. I don't know.
Well, it is kind of hard to get into a coffin before your
Well, of course,
time.
I'll tell you one thing about my coffin is that it's so ancient because it is an 18th century coffin. It doesn't look like the contemporary ones that we use. And I think, as a matter of fact, when I have seen, I was actually required to get into a 20th century coffin, or a very jazzy 1960s coffin, in a show out west that I did some months ago. And I found that spooky because I had seen death in my life, and I guess I had seen funerals, and that was too directly associated with my own experience. The coffin I have is the darndest looking old piece of wood you ever saw, so I never, as a matter of fact, I keep complaining about it. It's too small for me. And I yelled the other day when they were directing me in a scene, and I was supposed to do something. I've forgotten what it was. In my head in a certain angle. I said, "Well, if you'd get me a new coffin, I'd be able to do it." But
would you like to try this one, Versailles?
No, that's even shorter.
Yes. Jonathan, I'd be curious to know what your mail is like on that show. What do people write to you?
It gets rather exotic at times, I must say.
Is it sick mail or very?
Well, some of it, but I think the majority of the mail is mail to an actor. I like to think of it as a mail to an actor who's doing a good job, and we appreciate it. There is mail of that kind, but there is mail too that. No, there's very little morbid mail, really.
Do you recall any particular piece of mail that?
Well, I think most of the mail that I find amusing is the kind of mail that from people who really get involved in the story, and they cannot imagine you as anybody else but the character you're playing. And even on tours I've been on, people come up to me and they really believe I'm a vampire. They really think I might bite them at any moment.
Well, do you have
and
an
they
act?
ask me questions, and the letters are very much like that. I remember that one of the funniest letters I ever got was from a young boy who said, there's this Willie on the show. Willie is my sidekick. I bit him originally to make him my slave, as it were, servant, whatever. And he's always trying to ingratiate himself to me, and I'm always giving him orders and so forth and so on. And one day, I got this letter from this young boy, and he said, "Please don't be so cruel to Willie. I overheard him say one day nice things about you, and I think that you're being very nasty." I overheard, he said. Like he was the only one that heard it.
Where's your home, Jonathan, originally?
I'm from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I didn't know you had so many Canadians.
So you came across the border to bite Americans on the neck, huh?
Well,
where was your schooling?
In Canada, and then I came down here. I wanted to be a director at one point in my life, so I went down to the Yale Drama School and took directing there. And but I've never directed yet, and professionally, but I want to do it someday.
It's interesting to see Joan Bennett as a regular member of your cast.
Yes, and a lovely lady she is.
Yes,
too.
she is. She's been on here with us. Very nice.
Oh, has she? I didn't
know
know
that.
that.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. She's marvelous.
We hear in that part of television, the soap opera is, I mean, tedious work. It has to be. You have to learn a new script every day, don't you?
Yes. Oh, yes. It's tedious in that sense. But I was very uptight for about the first year, and the interesting thing was, so was Barnabas. So the two things worked very well together. Barnabas was caught himself in the 20th century. He was let out of a coffin, and there he had to adjust to all these things. So I, Jonathan Frid, had to adjust to a relatively new medium for me. And so if I ever goofed in a scene, I let Barnabas sort of goof too, you know what I mean? And so the two things work very well. Now that Barnabas is fairly used to the 20th century, so I have gotten used to the medium of television. And I find it very exciting doing a new show every day. I really enjoy it. And we have a nucleus of about 20 people in the show. And it's fun to go in every day after you've taped the show and you read for the next day's show and you see a whole new group of actors or new combinations of actors each day. So it's not the tedium of a Broadway show where you're on for a year doing the same thing every night with the same people. Each day is an opening. I've made Barnabas go in a direction of, I've humanized him. I don't think I'm a strict vampire as Bela Lugosi was. Bela Lugosi played strictly a vampire. He really was spooky. Well, I guess I've been spooky at times, but I tend to play, the man with a hang-up. But he played strict vampire. He was rather passionless.
You know, I never dreamed that I'd become a fan of Dark Shadows. But because of New Jersey Network, I have. I watch the show every night and I love it. Not only that, but I find myself tuning into the network more and more because, well, I find the programs can be entertaining and very provocative. I'm a member of the New Jersey Network, and I think you should be too. Now, the network also offers some very nice thank you gifts for your pledge. For instance, there's this T-shirt, which, well, I was quite tempted by that. And then there's this photograph over here of me. Well, I'm not that vain. You choose that. I chose this mug because, well, I drink coffee all the time. That's right. Coffee.
This portion of Dark Shadows has been brought to you by New Endust, another work-saving product from Dracket, and by Colgate 100, kills mouth odor instantly.
It is amazing that it's so popular and that it has, you know, developed a kind of a cult and sort of people that follow it and work with it. And I haven't been able to make it to one of these conventions or parties or whatever you have. I really wanted to. Last time I just couldn't get down there. And maybe you have them now pretty regular, right? So, you know, I'll probably get another invite maybe.
I think what attracts the people is the desire to know that there is so much more than our own physical reality as we see it. It is a desire to know that, just in case it's necessary, that this is not all there is. There is more.
I just remember all these wonderful, nice people doing this crazy thing, and I got to go there every day and do something crazy with them, and it was fun. It was really fun. It wasn't dog eat dog. It was, you know, everybody was real supportive of everybody else.
Anything that survives that long should be commended. We did something right, surely. And out of doing something right, we bonded together. That word was never in vogue in my younger years, but it seems to be now like glue. We bonded together, and we've made good friends with each other, and we worked hard together. And we are being patted on the back.
Jonathan used to beat me with this cane. I remember that well. In fact, I think there's still a speck of blood over here. Johnny was quite a realistic type actor. No, there's no speck of blood over here. But it was a lot of fun. Good old Dark Shadows. Yes, sir.
You know, I'm always asked why the show is popular 30 years later, and I really think it's because of the stories that we tell on Dark Shadows. And I also think it's because of the casting. There was a terrific chemistry among all of us. I mean, Laura and David and, you know, Nancy and Joan and Louis, we all get along so well. And I think that that conveys itself to the audience. I think they can see that we're, you know, that we're close and enjoying ourselves and having a good time telling these stories. And that communicates itself.
But now the time has come for both of us to go free.
I cannot be free without you.
But you must. For I belong to the past. For you, there is a future with someone else.
But I don't want anyone else.
Then you must be lonely, for you cannot have me. But you will find someone else, I know it. And when you do, give her this. The ring that you gave to me, give to her, whoever she may be. This ring, a sign of your freedom and of mine.
Josette, you can't leave me. You can't now. It's too cruel.
Barnabas, I did want you for myself. But rather than see you dead, I would see you free of my power. And free of me. I love you. You reject me, revile me, despise me.
Have you not given me reason?
Yes, I admit that. I wanted you. I couldn't bear to have anyone else have you. But everything I have done, none of it has given me your love.
Angelique, we cannot love at will. Any more than we can prevent our love.
Well, I know that. That's why I ask nothing in return for your life. But you can't give me willingly. All I want is your love. Only if you're able to give it. I only ask that you try.
Right now, I almost feel like I'm an ordinary man and you're an ordinary woman.
We'll never forget any of them, Barnabas.
Never.
Hi, I'm Diana Millay, Laura Collins, the Phoenix from Dark Shadows, with an enticing offer, my new cookbook, I'd Rather Eat Than Act, with recipes from famous friends, Jonathan Frid, David Selby, plus rare photos and personal stories. Of course, I'll autograph each book, and as a bonus, if you order now, you'll receive an original Dark Shadows script, absolutely free. Send $19 to Millay Cookbook, Box 1351, New York, New York, 10163.
Well, I think what's happening today is that American men are coming to their senses. We don't have to worry anymore whether our hair is a little bit too long or about being different or putting something that smells good and feels good on your face and body. I think the thing today is to express your own self.
American men have come to their senses about a lot of things, and Brute is part of it. Brute by Fabergé.
Hi, I'm Catherine Lee Scott with 2 new books just for you. The Dark Shadows comic strip book features the rare complete newspaper comic strips, and the Dark Shadows music book offers sheet music for the show's most popular tunes, including Quentin's theme, plus many rare photos and a Dark Shadows discography. The music book is only $14.95, and the comic strip book is only $15.95. Please add $3.50 shipping for 1 or 2 books. Send payment to Pomegranate Press, P.O. Box 17217, Beverly Hills, California, 90209.
I can see what it is now, that as crazy and as naive as the whole thing was, I could see what it was that had the audience fascinated. It was a very enchanting quality to it.
It was just a good-looking show and good actors doing well-written lines.
I don't think there's anything else like Dark Shadows. It's got the romance and the excitement and the mystery.
It fed people's imagination, and there was a hunger for that sort of thing. And I think that's important.
No show is perfect. No one is perfect, but it was a good company of players.
I went to 555 Madison and read what seemed to me an extremely peculiar script.
Who the hell ever heard of putting on a Gothic soap opera in the middle of the afternoon? They did it. It worked.